management of their nation's resources, hand in hand with Swedish engineers, American constructors, and capitalized by many nations, they have combined for an endeavor which by any standards is one of the first magnitude. To develop a vast iron ore deposit, a range of iron lying 165 miles in the hinterland, north-northeast, along the border of Guinea. This is Nimba. Build a railroad 165 miles long. Build it through treacherous terrain, over 36 rivers, in swamps, in jungle, and in mountainous country. Then build a facility for ore removal at the site, at Nimba, and build a complete ocean port for shipping and storage of ore at Buchanan on the surf-lashed beach of Bassa country. Build, as well as LAMCO proposed to do, new, completely modern towns for personnel, power supply, maintenance, and myriad elements of a giant operation. Do all this in a place of chaotic vegetation and footpaths where the automobile was unknown. Introduce Liberians to and train them to run dozers. Build and repair complex equipment. Do this and much more, knowing your year may be but 6 months long. So paralyzing is the deluge of the rainy season. Do all this against handicaps of time and distance and Africa's powerful forces of nature that demolish logistical calculations. This was the project for which President William V.S. Tubman paved the way. With his characteristic enthusiasm, President Tubman approved that a determined group of LAMCO geologists search out the locations of Liberia's underdeveloped treasures. With the cooperation of Liberia's Bureau of Mines, the search moved into the Nimba region under the able guidance of the Honorable Arthur Massaquoi. The search seemed to be leading to an unrealized dream until B.H. Nordland ordered a search of the summit of Nimba. I saw a mountain of iron ore, and it was Christmas Eve, 1955, when that message flashed out from the bush. And Aladdin's treasure was the Christmas present for the devout President Tubman and his beloved Liberia. Then, a giant and complex organization for iron ore removal was set in motion. The LAMCO group was formalized. CENTAB took on the engineering and design. Raymond International was awarded the prime contract, and the work was begun. The business of engineering and survey went ahead in earnest. CENTAB, setting up camps along the approximate right-of-way, probed among the hills and jungle for the most desirable route for the rail facilities that were to start at Nimba and terminate near Buchanan. Raymond engineers, starting their pioneering of actual construction, established and improved service roads along the right-of-way. At no point were the service roads more than half a mile from the right-of-way. The little community of Buchanan began to bustle as LAMCO and CENTAB raised their sprawling settlement. Housing, a hospital, offices, workshops, recreation, and other facilities were being built. Out in the bush, work camps were established at several points along the 165-mile stretch to the base of Nimba. The main LAMCO and CENTAB operational and headquarters camp at Buchanan were in business. And at 5 strategic locations along the route of construction, the Raymond camps were established too. Each campsite was complete with an airstrip. Each camp was assigned a specific length of the right-of-way. The responsibility for all phases of the work fell to the superintendent of each camp, and from Buchanan to Nimba, each was a complete project organization. Manpower, more and more men arrived day by day until during the peak of Raymond operations, 400 technical experts from Spain were busy as squad leaders, training directors for 4,000 Liberians in highly diversified assignments. From Europe, from Scandinavia, and the United States, they arrived by the hundreds. Raymond alone sent 230 men from the United States. Activity mounted to a thrumming pace because it was a race now to beat the June to November rainy season. Rain, torrents of rain, as much as 40 inches a month, was the deluge to be expected. Small wonder that the watchword was race despite the equatorial heat, because Raymond had 3 years to complete their job. Beyond that time, the contract penalty clause specified $30,000 a day. So the momentum and tempo increased day by day in many locations at once. 65 miles away at Monrovia, Liberia's capital city, and its free port, built by Raymond in the 40s, the storage areas were cramming with hundreds of units of wheeled equipment and stores of spare parts. The marshalling yards were under the watchful care of Pat O'Brien, Raymond's present charge d'affaires in Monrovia. And with him, your narrator was given an eye-opening tour of the awesome array of power that was being mobilized for the $250 million LAMCO project. It was November 1960, and although it seemed incongruous in the shimmering heat, incidentals and holiday sundries had not been omitted. It was only a month till Christmas. The visit was further flavored by the chanting of the Liberian stevedores. $278 pieces of light and heavy equipment moved out of the port gates day after day, 7 days a week. Clearance by the port authorities was fast and efficient as the processions of tools and materials rumbled south to Buchanan and the other camps. At the St. John River Ferry, there were always happy greetings by local well-wishers. Railroad gotta go. Not all the equipment got through without problems on these long safaris. Wooden bridges could not always hold up under DW-21 earth movers. The streams were crossed sometimes directly and sometimes over temporary earth, built up to last as long as it took for 3 units of equipment to cross. Some did not make it, but the struggle continued. The sounds of the African night are peaceful, but brief. The thunder of the engines was the Nimba reveille. The route was selected, and clearing was the way, and was well advanced. Before the ink was dry on the contracts, Raymond's equipment used on previous road projects was pressed into use to save every possible hour. It was prudent to give the snakes a bit of latitude, and it was not uncommon for the venomous green mamba to coil up to a bulldozer seat while the operator was out for lunch. We were visited by an occasional elephant, but never for long. With the bush removed along the right-of-way, borrow areas were opened for filling the alternately depressed terrain. Cuts were started on the hilly portions of the route, and there were hundreds to be made, all carefully plotted for grade specifications. The rail line, which now carries traffic as heavy as any in the world, could not exceed a downhill gradient of 1.7%. Liberia's jungle was not going to let us through without imposing all its resistance, and more these forces were revealed in their true nature. As the obstacles took more unyielding form, a prime example was kilometer 28 to 25. Just below a deceptively soft overburden, there was rock of unusual and complicated placement. The characteristics of the route had anticipated ordinary earth removal. Instead, we found defiantly hard granite resisting our efforts to complete the cut. And this was not the whole problem. Underground spring channels were opened up and stream sources had to be found and rechanneled. Then came the misery, the rains, and with the deluge, mud, more mud, and yet more, oceans of mud. But the earthwork proceeded just the same. Grading and compaction was next, and these procedures were relatively normal. Critical tolerance for elevation and grade were maintained. With CENTAB's chief inspector, we took off by copter on one of his weekly, and we say this with quotes around it, routine inspection trips. With merely feet of clearance above the treetops, our Swedish pilot casually flew the entire route. Our Project Progress tour was well spiced with short stops and surprises. Like landing on a 10-foot square landing pad at one of the CENTAB camps, complete with tasty smorgasbord luncheon, local zoo, and some touches of sly Swedish humor. With a takeoff from over 200-foot sheer drop, the inspection tour continued. Microwave tower components just delivered needed attention. The towers built by Philips of Holland could not tolerate flaws of any kind. The microwave stations, located 10 miles apart, maintain traffic control for the ore trains. At Nimba, LAMCO had advanced their complicated facilities in record time. We plan to return to Nimba soon to see the complete scope of operations. At the summit of Nimba, Raymond was well along with an enormous cuts for the crusher plant location and the conveyor route. The quarry sites were opening up at 3 locations. During the right-of-way phases of the project, the port site of Buchanan had moved along with a pace to match the colored schedule charts. Breakwaters were reaching out into the open Atlantic. Veterans of Africa predicted things were bound to change. And they did. Weather kicked up again, and it forced a radical departure in our operational procedures. Logistics and the natural circumstances to be confronted are factors which make African construction very different. The Sea Train Company and the Susquehanna Railroad worked up an ingenious plan to ship 207 units of rolling stock, including 12 heavy diesels and a locomotive crane. These goings-on were enough to make an old-time railroad man stand agog. Part of the plan would use the stacking method. Flat cars stacked and nested into the gondolas. The sea train ship Texas had a capacity of 100 cars, so the next vital part of the plan was this. 207 units were tucked into the boxcar pigeonholes. And with an additional 4,000 tons of rails and other equipment, virtually a complete railroad put to sea in one ship to be unloaded at the still unfinished port of Buchanan, Liberia. The main quarry, 10 miles north of the port, soon reached capacity production. In all, 2,700,000 cubic yards of quarried stone was used in the harbor construction. Wherever we looked, the word was go. To the whirler crane now for armor rock placement. The American whirler picked skips from the flatbeds and placed them on scows, which were then towed out to the site, and the base course of the quarry run was bulldozed over into the harbor floor. Next, the Clyde whirler, operating on temporary rails, was put to work, placing a heavy quota of medium and heavy armor rock. Positioning the heaviest armor rock, ranging up to 10 tons apiece, needed delicate care. Centab's inspection was exacting, continuous, and thorough. Once the outer reach of the breakwater configuration was accomplished, the final placement of the last rock armor was finished by the crane on the return trip. With the arrival of all the railroad rolling stock and equipment, an extra impetus was added to the campaign to finish off the cut and grades of the roadbed to be ready for the ties and rails soon to begin reaching inland from Buchanan. 2 major river spans were required for the route of the road to Nimba, and there were 7 other structural steel bridges, as well as 13 concrete bridges. The structural steel bridges were fabricated and delivered by Bethlehem Steel and erected by Raymond. And along the route, where natural drainage had been diverted, the work crews were hurrying ahead with supplemental drainage systems, nearly always under the close observation of junior-size overseers. Other drainage needed corrugated metal culverts varying in diameter from 3 feet to 12 feet. Along the entire route, 707 of such culverts were placed. Depending upon the size of your transportation, we found the nagging fear of mire and bog down was soon forgotten. There were always many willing hands and backs, and they were always so jolly about it. The superintendent spent many an anxious hour pondering another nagging problem: the heavy toll in wear and fatigue of our tools under the relentless equatorial climate. The machine shops and repair crews were under constant pressure to patch up or replace entirely parts and whole assemblies of our moving stock. Wheeled or tracked, all units were subject to discouraging deterioration. Throughout all the repair facilities of the project, it was constantly in debt to the ingenious machinists, mechanics, welders, and electricians. There was one exception. Not only was she a callous on the heel of progress, but she was delinquent in her union dues. Begin, the framework of the crushing plant at the peak of the conveyor belt was rising. Specifications for the downhill conveyor permitted no gradient of more than 18 degrees. And in order to meet this requirement, 2 sections of cut and cover concrete tunnel were worked. Excavation to remove the tops of hills was all that was required along most of the remainder of the 2-mile conveyor line down to the railhead. At the rail terminal, ore silos, the warehouses, repair shops, administration offices, hospitals, school and civic center buildings under the construction of LAMCO and Centab were taking shape. But to many, the most important operations were the concrete casting procedures. From the slabs and blocks cast there at Nimba in the midst of jungle, pert little homes for wives and children soon would take shape. And fully that soon, in most cases, Nimba ceased being a remote and exotic name and became home. Continuing our 165-mile hedge hopping from Nimba back down to Buchanan, much progress was being made within the now finished breakwater. On the ore loading quay, sheet steel pile cells were set down on bedrock and filled with tremie concrete. Normal pile techniques were not possible for the ore loading pier because of uncharted boulders. Along the line of the secondary breakwater, the construction of the permanent commercial quay was underway. The foundation of the quay was dredged, crushed rock for the undercourse was placed, screeded, and on this base, large concrete blocks, 820 of them, some as heavy as 85 tons, were placed and precisely fitted. At the water site, the wily whirler worked the placements of the blocks as they were brought alongside by barge. With the constant control of the divers, this method worked well. In dredging the harbor to minus 43 feet, more than 2 million cubic yards were removed and pumped ashore for later use. But since it was not possible to remove all the rock from the harbor floor, drilling and blasting was necessary in some areas. By now, the harbor complex began to look emphatically more like the final product, the ore silo, ore stalker gantry, plant and conveyor control station for the ore loading operations were well along toward completion. These phases of the job, except for the foundations performed by Raymond, were part of the LAMCO send-tab function. And as for functions, there were those among us on the scene who found it confusing in the extreme, trying to separate the various areas of responsibility and purpose in the project, especially with its broad base of international flavor of names. LAMCO, Send-Tab, Raymond McDowell, Dutch subcontractors, German, Italian, Spanish subcontractors. But the point to fix upon was simple: get the ore down from Nimba to Buchanan and aboard ship in a profitable volume. To follow the ore delivery continuity from the arrival of the hopper cars, the conveyor system was to relay the ore from car to ship. And most intriguing was the unit connecting the rail car and the special rubber conveyor belt. It was the car tipper, about which more in a moment. At about this point, LAMCO was dealing with one more of the assorted obstacles Africa can toss in your path. Quicksand at the ore storage area had to be dragged out and then replaced with stable material. Carrying on through the separate areas of the port facilities, the construction and equipping of the central power plant was advancing. Of the many Raymond functions at Buchanan, another was the concrete casting plant. For all along the 165-mile track, drainage needed pipes and ditches. 30 miles of ditches had to be paved with concrete slabs. It was time we looked in on the rail laying methods. LAMCO's ore trains were scheduled to be made up of locomotive and 90 cars, each carrying 90 tons of ore. For such extremely heavy traffic, 132-pound rail was used. In a subcontract, Matisse Rail Weld of Chicago butt welded 39-foot rails to form 117-foot lengths. Most of the 600,000 cross ties were delivered by trucks from Buchanan to deposit sites along the right-of-way. In any study of general systems, all functions must be considered, so our cameraman insisted, we're studying trains, aren't we? The 117-foot lengths of rail and all accessories for the laying, connecting, and ballasting of the rails were delivered by supply train to end of track as it moved north from Buchanan. The rails were put in position by a special travel lift gantry. Air hammers spiked the rails to every fourth cross tie to allow the supply train to move ahead as fast as possible. Then following behind the supply train, the spiking down was completed by the automatic air equipment. In addition to the Buchanan quarry, rail bed ballast was supplied by a second quarry located halfway between the ends of the track. Raymond delivered about 1 million cubic yards of ballast, placed in 3 layers by the bottom dump cars. Ballast was distributed and screeded. And as each layer went down, the track and ties were raised. Then the ballast was packed in by other mechanical equipment. Following this, where rises and hollows were found, minor adjustments were made. After the final grading, alignment, and precision gauging of the track, one completing operation was to be added. The ballast shoulders were finished off to specification. Almost exactly a year after the start, end of track reached its northern terminus at Nimba. And Raymond's vice president and overall charge, E.T. Morris, was there with his chiefs of staff in the best railroading tradition to drive the final golden spike. Another year was to pass before we returned to find Buchanan Harbor in its close to final form, and the dedication ceremonies were about to open. From many parts of the world, the visiting officials were getting the deluxe tour of what was the nearly completed $250 million LAMCO project. From Buchanan to Nimba, the operation had already delivered close to 2 million tons of ore when the official tour got underway. At the control station, the control tower operator explained.
You are here in the control station of the entire ore handling plant. You will notice by the lights and arrows the flow of the iron ore by means of switches. We can control from here the iron ore to the ship or to the stockpile area from the car dumper. The storage capacity is at present 600,000 tons. We will be able to store in the future 1 million tons.
In the ore handling sequence, from gondola to car tipper, to conveyor, silo, and the ship's hold, the gondola arrives from Nimba. The cable-operated car booster emerges from its trench. The car is pushed along into the tipper. Clamps secure the car, and over she goes. From the storage area, up the conveyor belt, The ore is transferred to the ship loader system. From there, it is carried on up and into the ship's hold. The ore handling operation delivers a capacity of 6,000 tons an hour. There are great advantages to being the project historian in film. Example, we were among those who were treated to a ride in the beautifully preserved antique railroad car brought expressly from Sweden for the occasion. Brought together with one of Sweden's modern suburban rail coaches and other agreeable accoutrements. As the welcoming ceremonies were underway at Nimba, there was a vague sense of a marking of time among the guests. The two men indispensable to the project and Liberia were about to arrive. Liberia's President William Tubman and His Royal Highness Prince Berthold of Sweden. And Prince Berthold now numbers among his many orders his robes of honorary chieftainship in the tribe of Mano. During the period before the official dedication of the LAMCO project, tours, descriptions, and demonstrations of all sectors were conducted from the Civic Center, with the guests moving off in all directions. For our cameras, we selected one trip in particular, the broad highway Raymond had rolled out through what short months before had been chaotic, untamed jungle. Having seen this area and the summit ridges of the Nimba Range before their domestication, we were truly impressed. During this entire period of the dedication visit and the festivities, actual operations of the whole Nimba complex were proceeding. Normal stage-by-stage and station-by-station process could not be improved upon through any demonstrations staged for the guests. It was not any imitation that they were watching with such avid interest. Although it was not always said in words, the pride of a truly high achievement was clearly expressed. But as the achievement was expressed officially, the storied eloquence of President Tubman.
The transformation of the surrounding area, which a few years ago was an uninhabited mountainous region, dangerous and inaccessible, infested with reptiles of all kinds, considered the home of demons and devils by some of the indigenous inhabitants, where with some of the country's most ravenous fauna roamed in dense forest, and the realization of what technical know-how and perseverance have brought about fills one with admiration for what man can do and has wrought in this case.
The thoughts of President Tubman are recalled. He called Nimba a former place of devils and demons. The advancements that have overcome these demons of superstition have achieved infinitely more, for there are other benefits that may never be accurately appraised. Africa has needed the things of the world of development, and as the world has increasingly greater need for Africa, the enterprise we have seen is a masterstroke of leadership by LAMCO and Liberia's Nimba.
The discovery of one of the world's largest deposits of high-grade iron ore in Liberia, West Africa, called for the construction of a heavy-duty single-track railway with 9 sidings, a harbor, and a remarkable telecommunication system using microwave radio as a transmission medium. This modern integrated system features centralized traffic control. In other words, all point machines and signals along the railway are operated by remote control from this room at Nimba, the mine production area 170 miles from the harbor. In areas which a few years ago were uninhabited, 9 repeater stations, each with its own equipment and power supply buildings, were erected at the rail sidings. They are equipped to handle all railway control operations and relay all telephone, telegraph, and radio communications between the 2 terminals at Nimba and Buchanan, the transshipment harbor. Installed at Nimba on the ground floor of the control tower is the terminal equipment for the radio relay and centralized traffic control circuits and the relay interlocking equipment with rows of safety relays for the point machines and signals in the marshalling yard. In the workshop, there is a monitor fault panel which shows the exact location of any fault occurring in the system. Nor does it stop there. An automatic telephone exchange with lines for 400 subscribers and facilities for 6 telegraph channels serves the needs of the production and administration areas. At Nimba, 4 independent radio telephone systems are centralized. There's the train radio with selective calling and identification. Operating over 200 miles of roads, the service radio system uses open calling. The third system is a local one, employing portable units in the shunting yards and by repair gangs along the railway. These systems make use of the microwave radio relay. The 4th radio telephone system provides the necessary means of communication between a central supervisor and the shunting locomotives at each of the 2 terminals. At each railway siding, reflectors bend signals down to the parabolic aerials below to either control point machines or signals, or be amplified and relayed to another destination in the network. This comprehensive telecommunication project was designed, manufactured, and installed by Phillips and associated companies for LAMCO Joint Venture Operating Company at the cost of £1.5 million. On the evening of the 15th of November, 1963, this outstanding LAMCO project as a whole was dedicated. The Director of Natural Resources and Surveys, Mr. A.M. Massakoy, officially welcomed the international and distinguished guests, which included His Royal Highness Prince Bertil of Sweden. Mr. Erland Waldenström, President of the Swedish Grängesborg Company, one of the major shareholders of LAMCO, expressed his confidence in the future of the joint venture. Then, after concluding, he made way for the President of Liberia, Dr. William V.S. Tubman, who gave an illuminating survey of the many difficulties which confronted the various contractors to this immense project, one of Africa's greatest, and their resultant success. He also paid tribute to the men who gave their lives that this venture might see completion at the time of the contract. Crossing the platform, President Tubman pressed a button which dispatched a fully laden ore train on its way to the harbor at Buchanan and the markets of the world. Among the first visitors to congratulate President Tubman was Prince Bertil. This was a historic event. The LAMCO project is of great significance to the people of Liberia. The railway has benefited many by opening up new and expanding older areas. The rich deposits from the Nimba Mountains are providing a new way of life. Economic development of Liberia has been accelerated. This night was written down indelibly in the records of a nation. The statement by the discoverer of the main ore body, Sandy Clark, in 1955, "I have seen a world of iron ore," is wonderfully expressive and true. Indeed, under a thin layer of soil lies millions of tons of almost pure iron ore, averaging 65%. This new source of wealth, which has lain for centuries undisturbed, is now finding its way into the blast furnaces of the world. Working on 3 different levels called benches, excavators, electrically powered from a large station in the valley, lift huge shovelfuls of the rich deposit into waiting haul packs, specially constructed vehicles for transporting ore, which haul it over well-made roads winding over the mountainside to the ore crushing plant for treatment. "190 feet high, the ore crusher has an appetite which 3,000 tons of iron ore per hour cannot satisfy. A continuous line of hoe packs pull in and tip their loads into the mills, whirling below for 18 hours, 6 days per week. The crushed ore then falls into a conveyor belt 4 feet wide and nearly 19 miles long. The jungle has been thrust aside to make way for a 4-section covered conveyor belt divided by 3 reloading stations where the ore is transferred from one belt to another. When the ore reaches the storage bins in the valley below after dropping 2,000 feet, it is automatically weighed in accurate quantities and released into a line of waiting trucks. After a routine brake test, the ore train is driven to the marshalling yards at Nimba, a few miles distant, where a complete ore train of 90 or 120 trucks will be assembled. There also 3 huge locomotives of 176 tons and 2,000 horsepower each will be coupled to the ore train under instructions from the shunting operator before the whole ore train is handed over to the train dispatcher for its long journey to the coast. On arrival at Nimba Control, the train dispatcher takes over from the shunting operator.
Nimba Control calling ore train number 13. Nimba Control calling ore train number 13.
Your tail magnet is being attached. Your route is being set up. You will then be ready for departure.
Ready for departure, Nimba Control. Waiting for
Clear signal.
You have a clear track 13.
At both ends of each section along the railway, set between the rails, are sensitive detectors. Every time a tail magnet passes over one of these, the train dispatcher is notified automatically on the control panel that a complete train has passed this point. Immediately an ore train is dispatched, the shunting operator begins to assemble the 90 or 120 laden ore trucks and 3 locomotives for the next scheduled departure. Service vehicles use a service road, which runs approximately parallel to the railway. Direct radio contact between mobile and portable units is possible without disturbing the train dispatcher at Nimba. But Nimba Control has a request to make.
Nimba Control calling Whiskey 11. Nimba Control calling Whiskey 11.
Whiskey 11 calling Nimba Control.
Whiskey 11, please check fuel and change over equipment at ELR station.
Okay, Nimba Control. Whiskey 11 will do.
Arriving at Yila's siding, where the equipment huts house the radio relay, 7,000 megacycle multi-channel carrier, mobile radio railway telephone, railway signaling control and alarm systems, and the twin diesel generator units which supply all power, the engineer proceeds about his routine tasks.
calling Nimba Control. Whiskey 11 calling Nimba Control.
Nimba Control calling Whiskey 11.
Nimba Control, Gila station in order.
Thank you, Whiskey
11, over and out.
The ore train, which left Nimba some time ago, is due to reach the harbor shunting yards in the early evening. The 170-mile journey takes about one half of a tropical day, about 6 hours. The single-track railway can handle a great amount of traffic. Many laden ore trains run each day from Nimba down to the harbor at Buchanan and return unladen to Nimba. Over the LAMCO railway, the recognized principle of fail-safe is employed. That is, should any fault occur, no dangerous situation can arise. A fail-safe tokenless block system uses a single telegraph channel via radio links between sidings for the transmission of information concerning block occupancy. As an ore train moves into a cleared block, all occupancy lamps on the centralized traffic control panel pertaining to the block it has left will extinguish. The block interlocking will be released, and the train dispatcher can then allow traffic to move into that section. Down train number 13 is rapidly approaching one of the sidings. The train dispatcher at Nimba can see at a glance that two trains will meet at this point. When traffic justifies, the drivers are advised by selective radio calls. The wanted train is called. The train driver answers with his call button, giving his position, and the identity number of the train is confirmed.
Nimba Control calling train number 13.
Train 13 calling Nimba Control.
You can expect a meeting with up train number 9 at Kitoma siding at kilometer post 211. You will be routed through the main track.
Train number 13, message understood.
The train dispatcher at Nimba pays special attention to the Kitoma siding. Now watch the main line at its center. A white track indication lamp will light when train 13 occupies the section. With the down train stopped, the switches controlling the point machines and signals into the siding are thrown to set up the new route for up train number 9. The orange lamps for the points and appropriate lamps for signals and direction will flash on and off until the route is set up. This is a critical time for the train dispatcher and train driver, for in their charge is valuable equipment, impossible to replace at short notice, and thousands of tons of iron ore. An incautious move here by the train driver and the single track might be blocked for hours. With ships in the harbor at Buchanan waiting to take aboard the newly won cargo, more than average care must be taken. The annual production target exceeds 10 million tons. Watch the upper track closely. The white track occupancy lamp lights, signifying that the up train has passed into the siding. Now the points can be switched back to the main line so that train 13 can proceed. With the track now clear behind it, the up train may re-enter the main line. When the lamps at both ends of the siding cease flashing, it denotes the routes have been set up. Down train number 13 can then resume its journey. When the tail magnet at the rear of the last truck passes over the detector at the end of the siding, the block at the rear of the train will be released, and the occupancy lamp at the center on the main track will extinguish. When the last truck of the ore train has entered the next section, the white lamp at the extreme right lights, showing that the complete train has cleared the siding. Meeting concluded. The train dispatcher moves further along the line.
With a defiant blast from its siren, down train number 13 clears the siding and proceeds further through each section, passing small villages nestling in the undergrowth and settlements in turn. Along the railway for its length, signals indicate track conditions ahead. 2 green lamps, one flashing, denote proceed at line speed. Ore train number 13 passes through siding after siding, its progress carefully watched on the central control panel at Nimba. At every siding, tall masts with equipment huts beside or nearby rise out of the jungle, remote, yet carrying vital pulses to the heart of the microwave system. Six hours of intense concentration for the driver comes to an end as the approach signals at Lower Buchanan are passed. Train number 13 is now safely in the hands of the local shunting operator. Thanks to the efficiency of the radio-operated centralized traffic control system, Nimba Control's responsibility for this ore train is over. LAMCO has given great consideration to its standing equipment. The modern terminal station building at Lower Buchanan also provides congenial working conditions for employees who bring their families to furnished and well-equipped bungalows in delightful surroundings. The same careful planning is evident in the Yekepa Valley at Nimba, where the main housing and administration centers lie. The ore trucks, now pushed by a shunting locomotive, uncouple one by one at the crest of a slight hump and roll to the retarder. And out of a pit between the rails, like some prehistoric monster, rises a powerful ram to push the truck up to the rotary dumper. The dumper turns the truck 170 degrees, and the ore now falls onto a conveyor belt to be carried to the stockpile. The empty truck is pushed by the laden truck behind it and, with brakes released, rolls down across spring points, up the final hump and down again to return unaided to the marshalling yards. The conveyor belt carrying the ore reaches the stockpile where it mounts a mobile overhead bridge with shuttle, which moves backwards, forwards, and across, discharging the ore as it goes, thus building up the stockpile. Excavators, as at the mine at Nimba, now lift the ore from the stockpile onto the conveyor belt again, which carries it to the ship loader via a surge bin with sampling station, or can also be transported from the rotary dumper direct to the ship loader when required. At a rate of 5,000 tons per hour, the conveyor belt carries the iron ore via the ship loader to the ship's hold. A 40,000-ton vessel can berth, load, and embark within 10 hours. So centralized traffic control has done its job. Passage of the valuable iron ore has been supervised from mine to harbor in the shortest possible time. The integrated railway control and communication system, designed, constructed, and installed by Spoorwegsein Industrie, Maschinenfabrik Alkmaar, and Philips Telecommunicatie Industry, has assured LAMCO Joint Venture Operating Company and the Republic of Liberia continued production and a measure of prosperity in the future.
And beautiful, big sister in mountain folklore. But hey there, what's that? Are you blowing the whole mountain to pieces? Yes, that's what you have to do in order to get at Mount Nimba's iron ore riches. That's what the LAMCO joint venture is all about. Exploiting Liberia's natural resources as a contribution to Liberia's development. Iron ore is one of the world's most important raw materials. We need iron for everything from big ships and huge steel bridges to tin roofs, pots and pans, nails and needles. About 700 million tons every year. Just one example. Every year about 24 million new motor cars are put on the road. To make the steel for all these cars needs every ton of ore produced by all the mining companies in Liberia. And half of it is mined by LAMCO. About half of it, 13 million tons. If those 13 million could be loaded on one train running at full speed, you would have to stand for 26 hours and 15 minutes to see the whole train pass by. The LAMCO joint venture, I say. Yes, a joint venture between the government of Liberia and their foreign partners, experts in the mining, marketing, and shipping of the ore. Experts in getting the money needed for this great enterprise. Now let us see how to run a mine. You drill holes in the ground and fill them with explosives so as to blast the rock. Then the shift is ready to start up the big haulage trucks.
Joe, you take Charlie 4.
You dig out the rock with giant electric shovels, more than 7 cubic meters in a single mouthful. You load the ore in those 110-ton trucks. The roads must be well built to carry those heavy vehicles, and with a smooth surface. You know, a single tire for one of those trucks cost as much as a whole Volkswagen. The ore is then brought down to the crusher. Carefully watched from the control room. A conveyor belt takes the ore down the mountainside to the ore bins. There, it is loaded on the train. The machines do the loading work. The man in the control room just supervises it, just pushes the knobs. 90 railroad cars are loaded, each carrying 90 tons of ore. Blue ore and brown ore. But before sending it off, you must make sure the ore is of the right quality. Here, a new employee receives his first training in the ore testing laboratory. But it takes many other crafts and skills, in addition to the people in the mining operation, to make up the complete operation. All those big, complicated machines have to be looked after very carefully, maintained, and repaired. You need welders, electricians, mechanics, draftsmen, and of course, computers, those fascinating electronic brains. Does it look difficult? It is. It takes application, self-discipline, a willingness to learn, and opportunities to learn.
It is absolutely necessary that the IF components are properly aligned, otherwise you can, as you see, if you move C37.
LAMCO provides them. Every foreign supervisor employed by LAMCO is an instructor as well. Year after year, LAMCO's Liberian employees are offered courses aimed at improving their skill and knowledge so that they can be promoted to more responsible jobs, better pay, etc.
LAMCO is improving. She is improving very well. The production going, more education going on in Liberia. And LAMCO trains so many Liberians with different trades, you know.
Many highly qualified and responsible positions have now been taken over by Liberians, and the Liberianization goes on apace. LAMCO discovered the Nimba deposit in 1955. In those days, there were not many people in that part of the country. Hardly any roads, schools, hospitals, or other modern amenities. Just a few small and scattered towns or villages, such as this one, which is now almost a museum piece surrounded by the modern Yekepa, the mining town at the foot of Mount Nimba, with a population of more than 10,000 people. Banks, shops, a movie house. And a marketplace. Churches for almost every denomination. A dispensary. This is Women's Day. A hospital with 6 doctors and a total staff of some 200 people. And it is growing all the time. The Nimba Realty and Construction Corporation, a recently started Liberian company, builds new houses for LAMCO workers, adding to the existing number of more than 2,000 units. And also for businessmen, clergymen, and others who have settled here to play their part in Yekepa's dynamic development. The ranks of Liberian enterprises grow all the time. Shops, restaurants, transportation, etc. All of them activities formerly run by LAMCO, but now in the hands of private entrepreneurs. This is a healthy development in a growing community, in a wholesome, functioning society. LAMCO welcomes it and supports it. It is needed too in order to provide future employment for the children of Yekepa. There are 2,000 of them in the various schools started and supported by LAMCO in close cooperation with the Liberian education authorities.
Beginning with J. Martin. Dick. Good.
Donkey.
Donkey.
I finished. Oh.
Mr. Steamer, how do you really go about the trainings of the truck driver, 35 tons, 65 tons, and 120 tons?
If we employ unexperienced driver, we put him in job class 900.
Another kind of educational work might be called training for responsibility sharing. In the workers' councils, representatives of management and workers meet regularly to discuss matters of mutual interest. And the president and general manager of LAMCO JV Operating Company, Mr. Ole Wikström, has frequent meetings with the leaders of the Nimba and Buchanan, locals of the National Mine Workers Union.
Yes, Mr. Tu, I understand the situation, and as I promised you yesterday, we will.
There is another modern version of the Palaver Hut as well.
Tonight at 7 o'clock, there will be a meeting of the National Mine Workers Union, local number 3, at the Workers' Recreation Hall in Vienini Camp. All workers are urged to be present and on time.
Now let us see what happens to the ore when it leaves Nimba on the 5-hour run to Buchanan.
Two, are you ready to leave from the yard now? Over. Yeah, 3 trading our clay track to the holdings. Pass the home signal in stop. Over.
Pass the home signal in stop, clear track to the opening.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
In a little while we pass Tokadi. That is Liberia's newest mine, one more deposit discovered by LAMCO. It started production late in 1972. Several other deposits in the same area are being explored. They will be used in the future when the present mine is finished. 4 drillers make holes deep into the mountain, and the samples brought up from the belly of Mother Earth are studied. The geologist's work was once headed by Dr. John Burge, an American who rose to become LAMCO's operations manager in Nimba. Here he is with Mr. Burgess Houston, the Liberian who is head of the company's industrial relations. Let them symbolize the daily LAMCO partnership between men and women of 20 different nations, of every tribe in Liberia. New sidings have to be added for the growing traffic in the railroad. And the track has to be carefully maintained. The railroad also serves the expanding forestry operation in Nimba County. As we get back on one of those ore trains rolling down to the coast day after day, let us consider who benefits from that partnership. In the first place, there's the Liberian government, which holds 50% of LAMCO's shares and also 50% of the directorships on the board of the company. So the government plays a very active role in the running of LAMCO's business. Their main partners in the joint venture is Bethlehem Steel Corporation of the United States and the Swedish Gränges Company, which also acts as manager of the operations and sales. This calls for high technical and managerial skill. It also calls for well-developed relations with the customers and intimate knowledge of the world market, where the international competition is very tough. But Here is the end of the journey. We have more to say about the business side of it. But first, let us have a look at the final end of the operations. Here is Buchanan and LAMCO's operations manager there, Mr. Ole Goranson.
Welcome to Buchanan. This is where LAMCO processes the ore in its pellet and washing plant and loads it into ships in the port for shipment to customers in Europe, United States, and Japan. It all starts in the car dumper over there.
But it is not as easy as simply to load it in the ships, send it away, and collect the money. Many other countries in the world produce large quantities of ore in Africa, in South America, India, and Australia. Really a lot more than the customers are ready to buy. Therefore, LAMCO must treat the ore so as to make it suitable for the customer's different needs. Screening, classifying, flotation, milling, sedimentation, drying, all in the big complicated washing plant. In the pelletizing plant, ore is rolled and baked into small iron ore balls, burned in a long oven so as to become hardened. This calls for a highly advanced technical process with close cooperation between all those working in the ore processing department.
I'm a junior foreman in the control room. Operators see that the plant runs well and advise the people on the field to carry on their job. From the boiling bean, the feed is proceeded by a table feeder, which is taking the feed from the bean, very little in the boiling bean according to the tonnage that you are running.
Pellets, washed lumpy ore, washed fines, high-quality Liberian ore for the customers overseas. And how are the profits divided? The foreign partners, specialists in technique, management, marketing, also put up the money needed to start it all. Nearly $300 million all told. They have well-founded claims for their part. And the government and the people of Liberia as a whole, 50% of the profit goes to the government, which also collects taxes on employees' incomes, custom duties, and so on. But just as important perhaps is this. LAMCO provides a means of livelihood for some 20 to 25,000 people. That is, if you include the families of the workers. And this in one of the country's less developed regions. LAMCO has built roads and airfields. LAMCO provides education and vocational training. LAMCO offers new opportunities for Liberian business initiatives. LAMCO has built hospitals and harbor installations. That is, one commercial harbor, which among other things together with the railroad has opened the hinterland for lumbering operations as we saw earlier on. In addition, it serves neighboring Guinea's export and import trade. And then the main harbor next door, where the big ore carriers call, and the ore loader pours a stream of ore into their holds, 6,000 tons per hour. If LAMCO prospers, it is good for Liberia. If LAMCO fails, it is bad for Liberia. It all depends on technical skill, efficient organization, cooperation, confidence. That is LAMCO, a joint venture into the future of Liberia.
The town of Yekepa, inland from the Liberian coast, is the home of the Batu family. The town was built by LAMCO, a large mining company. It's December, holiday time, and the schools are closed. The Batu children can play all day with their friends. Edward is here, and Marion, and Georgia. Marvin is very good at a game called Find the Ring. Mrs. Batu is free to attend a housekeeping class with the other mothers of the town.
Well, you people does the baking, how do they, take care of it? Sell it or you take it at home to eat for their meal? They take it at home to eat for their meal. Okay. Good afternoon, ladies. Our lesson today is on baby food.
Today, the subject is the best preparation of food for babies. Mano is the tribal language, one of 16 in Liberia, but English is widely used by most of the people.
We are fixing food for cereal for babies for about 6 months. I want everybody to look at me. This is the rice. Everybody see? The cooked rice with milk. And then for young baby, we already learned that this rice is hard for the baby, so you do like this, you mash it up. After feeding your baby with the rice, you sometimes give them orange juice to take the place of the vitamin because babies need vitamin also.
The father, John Batu. He's in charge of a fire station maintained by the mining company. And today he conducts a routine drill.
The hydrant, etc. Everybody move. Main hose connector. Wash the hoses, wash the water pressure. Disconnect over there now. Disconnect and begin to lower the hose now. Water! Turn it on.
Fires are frequent in the district, especially in the dry season, and grass fires are most common. The LAMCO company mines a large iron ore deposit. Liberia has extensive ore bodies, over 600 million tons of very high-grade ore. This is an open pit operation, highly mechanized. Because of mechanization, this type of mining requires comparatively few workers. Liberia hopes, in time, to develop use of the ore in the country and thereby increase employment. For the present, it's shipped to the coast and exported to world markets. Away from mines and railways, the old ways of life go on in Liberia. Simple, traditional ways. The women of a village, fishing in a stream. Half work, half holiday. Families which have been charcoal burners for generations continue to make the simple fuel for the villages. The great majority of Liberians live in the rural areas and along the coastline. But there are sizable towns, mainly on the coast, and the largest is Monrovia, the capital. Monrovia was a comparatively small place until after World War II, when Lend-Lease aid from America began the growth of a busy, quite modern city, the principal commercial and shipping center. The commercial bustle of Monrovia is very much different from the country-like calm of Yekepa. But the town is in touch with the world outside. Every day, John Batu reads the news on the radio, reading in English, speaking in Mano, instant translation. Edward and Marvin are not too interested in their father's broadcast. They're waiting for their lunch. So are the girls.
Slightly are good. How much onion that you bought?
The midday meal is the main meal of the day. Nellie helps her mother. Gloria has a little treat to help her wait. The children are served first on the veranda. The parents will eat later.
Are you food? This for you. Okay, you eat now. This is meat. That's meat. That's sausage. They call it sausage. You eat. That's meat, yeah? You can eat meat. Yeah, I will go to the telephone, yeah. You hear what I say? I said we'll go to the railway station tomorrow to go meet Ma. They're coming by the railway tomorrow, so we'll go in the car. They will fix the car tomorrow morning. You hear? Then we all can take a ride down there in the car to the railway station and bring her in the car. You hear? Yeah. You don't want to give it to Edward? Give it to the other children. You want ordinary meat? Huh? You can eat your lunch, I'm going to have mine. You hear? Bye.
Saturday, I would like to take Marvin and Nelly to the farm.
A trip to the farm is being discussed. John Batu owns 300 acres on which he grows rubber, coffee, and rice. Something for his children's future.
Yeah, just one afternoon trip.
There are about 4,000 rubber trees in production. 2 of John's brothers run the farm. There are 4 farm workers employed. John visits the farm every 2 weeks to talk things over with his brothers and plan the work. The crier at the village nearby announces the opening of the market, and the people gather. Grace Batu looks over the produce, a little fresher than in Yekepa.